All right, folks, well, welcome back to one of the busiest corners in all of Harvard Square. You'll probably see some action behind me. Also, way behind me, you might be able to see the pillars of Lehman Hall back here on Harvard's property. That's on the site of the fourth meeting house in Cambridge. Meeting houses are, of course, very important buildings for the Puritans, the original settlers, the colonials. And in 1779, that meeting house is going to host the Provincial Congress, in other words, the government of Massachusetts, back when we still didn't really have a government. We'd broken away from the British, we're not following their laws anymore, but we haven't written our own yet. And people are going, gee, that seems like it could be a problem if somebody commits crimes. How do we point to what law they've broken? And they ask John Adams, and Sam Adams and James Bowdoin to draft a constitution for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. They do so right there in that church. It's ratified in 1780, making it the oldest continuously used government document anywhere on the planet. The U.S. Constitution comes 9 years later in 1789. And with some amendments, Massachusetts has been using the same document since 1780. It's a really, really old, important document. Very notably, John Adams tries to insert one little sneaky clause in there that abolishes slavery at the onset of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. That's one of the first things that they strike out. They say, no, we're not going to do that to our wealthy citizens. Nobody's going to ever vote on this. But in 1783, a woman named Ma Bett sues for her freedom. Her master, slave owner, had died, and he had promised to get her letters of manumission upon his death. Well, that doesn't come from the rest of the family, so she sues to have her freedom. The court not only agrees with her, they say that slavery is not actually acceptable under the way that the Constitution of Massachusetts has been worded, and effectively, we're the first state in the Union to abolish slavery. We're very, very proud about that. Vermont actually did it before us, but they weren't a state back then, so we don't talk about it. We're proud to be the first ever to do it. That's some of the old history in Harvard Square. There's lots and lots of that. We'll get to more of that later. But I also wanted to point out a piece of the modern history. If you ever came to Harvard Square in the 1990s, early 2000s, you probably came just to be entertained. You could sit around eating ice cream, listening to records, reading comic books, but good Lord, there was a lot of entertainment on the streets. Street performance has long been a part of the lifeblood of Harvard Square, and nobody exemplified that better than a Russian guy, I should say, a man from the Soviet Union, because he came over in the late 80s, early 90s. This guy's name is Igor Fokin. There's no better way of showing you what he was capable of than just saying that this little golden guy here, his name was Dudu. And Dudu would come to life and scare the daylights out of children and dogs and delight people, and it was fun and funny. And Igor Fokin would have huge crowds around him. In an unbelievably inexplicable and tragic moment, he dies in 1996 at the mere age of 36 years old. Cambridge isn't going to let that go unnoticed, so they plant this memorial for him right here. It's also a memorial to other street performers, but I'd like to leave you with a little shot of what Igor Fokin brought to the square, so take a look at this.